does test weight matter? Is it important? Does higher test weight corn equal more bushels per acre and higher yield? Good morning, everybody. Except for it's not morning. It is 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We had a ½ inch of rain last night, so that was plus the 3/10 we had a couple of days ago. We're up to 8/10, or maybe even just a little bit more than that this week, and the fields are a little wet today, so no combining, no chiseling. I have spent the morning doing seed stuff, getting some orders placed, taking care of some paperwork stuff that needed to be done, updating some accounts and all kinds of stuff like that. Had to run some paperwork out, and then I just got back from a meeting with a seed customer, going over stuff for them for next year for an order and everything. So been a busy morning already, catching up on some of that stuff that desperately needed to get done. Now, another thing that desperately needs to get done is oil change in my truck. It's been yelling at me for at least a week now to change the oil. So we are going to do that here this afternoon. And once that's done, I'm going to go down and do some mowing around my seed warehouse and where my house is going to go. Work on that stuff just a little bit, and we'll see what else we can find to do. We may fire up the dryer. In fact, I might go do that now. Phil said something about it. He was hauling dry corn out today, so we don't have a lot of wet corn left over from yesterday, but there is some out there, and he wanted to dry it into our overhead bin so he can keep hauling dry stuff out and fill in our fall contracts. I think we had about 40 to 45,000 bushels that needed to get hauled out this fall. So that's the plan for the rest of today here. We'll get to it. So we are going to fire up our dryer. Oil level looks good. I think Phil just changed oil in here yesterday, 10/19, yep. And he cleaned off our radiator. Problem with running engines around the green system stuff is that these radiators get packed full of red dog, so he got her cleaned out. All right, well, fire her up. That fan's loud. So, if you guys watched my videos last fall, which most of you didn't, but if you have gone back and watched them, you'll know that we had some trouble with this dry leg last fall where we had a bucket come off and it stopped the leg, and it ended up burning through the main belt when the head pulley kept turning and stuff. So we have been talking about trying to find a speed sensor monitor to put on this bottom pulley so that if it stops turning, it would shut stuff down. I know that they are out there. I know people have them and have used them. Any of you guys used one? And if you have, can you put the link or tell me what it is down in the description or in the comments section so that we can look into finding something? I don't know. I've looked into it and found a few things, but I'm not sure exactly which one we want and what the best options are. So let me know. Last night this was running in the rain and our belts were getting wet on our motor and the pulleys there, and they started slipping. So we had to make a little makeshift rain cover real fast. Strapped a shovel to it. It worked. So anyway, this is running. I want to go back out here to the generator and see what our amp draw is. So you can see here our coolant, we're running 152 degrees. Oil pressure, engine speed. Let's see, how do I do this? Alternator, volts right there. So 480 volts on all three legs. Line to neutral voltage, 277 is what you want there. Amps, 117 to 121. You want them to be even as much as possible, but you're never going to get it perfect. So that's about what our dryer is pulling, the fans and the legs and the unload. 63 kW. This is a 230 kW generator, so we're not using nearly all of the power. That one's interesting though. I would be curious to see how many amps we can pull with everything running, with that 40 horse motor running, with our drag up top running, with our pit running, you know. We're not running a whole lot right now. That dryer has got 6, I believe they're 10 horse motors on the fans, and then we've got the 2 legs running. There's a 40 horse and a 20 horse motor on those. And then whatever the little bit for those drags are, and that one, the unload, but that one's intermittent, so it's really not that much power. But the generator works really good for it. So, all right, we're gonna let that run. I better make sure we're drying into the right bin before I get too far away from this. We are indeed putting corn into the overhead. Okay, back to changing oil in my truck. I'm in the process of rotating my tires here, and I noticed that my muffler mount hangers were broke. I knew the back one was. I was getting ready to fix that, and then the two that hold it up there were also broke. So I'm surprised the muffler's still hanging on at all. So I'm gonna see if I can get some of these. I guess that's what 200,000 miles does to a truck. What do you expect? Anybody want a 2007 Chevy Cobalt? It's only got like 93,000 miles on it. Nice car. It's for sale. Email me. Well, I went to the local auto parts place. They did not have any of those hangers. They will have them for me in the morning. So I took some wire and I wired it up, and we'll put the new ones on tomorrow. In the meantime, check out these nice new rear brakes. A little surface rust, but for those of you worried about me this summer when I needed new brakes on the rear, they're there. All new calipers, pads, rotors, the whole 9 yards. Okay, tires are rotated. Pressures were adjusted. I run 60 in the front, 75 in the rear, so when I swap the fronts to the backs, I gotta let some out of some and put some in others. Oil's changed, new oil's in, filter changed. I even kind of sort of somewhat attempted to clean up a little bit inside, didn't vacuum or anything, but anyway, truck's ready to go. It should be good for a while. Someday, before too long, it'll be time for a new one. But I'm trying to build a house, so there's that. So I'll run the truck with 200,000 miles on it for a while. Anyway, we're gonna go check out the dryer here. It's been running for an hour and a half now. Still got a green light on. Sorry about dropping my phone. Our first indicator on the bin is tripped, so it's moving. Everything looks like it's running good. I am running the dryer calibration. It's almost done. Almost done. Come on. There it goes. 14.1 coming out, which is a little bit drier than it says. Not much. But look, there's Phil. Well, he'll take a load out. Okay, cool. So we do this 3 times and take an average of what the 3 tests say. And this is coming straight out of the dryer. You can see it's only 67 degrees. I got that question a couple of times about whether or not we dump it hot or not. Our dryer cools. Everything is cool coming out of the dryer. Maybe 10 degrees above the ambient temperature outside, maybe. But anyway, so over here on this, we'll sit calibrate, and it says it's got a sample weighting. Said it was 14.4, we got a 14.1. So we'll do 3 samples, average them, tell it what it actually was, and then it'll adjust from there. But it's pretty close. Well, this is how we load out. We got a gate on there, and gravity feeds right into the truck out of that bin up there, so it works pretty good. That's what those catwalks on both sides are for. Well, really the one on the other side. We put this overhead bin up in 1993. We put catwalks on both sides so that we could have a chain fall opener on both sides, so we could stand on whichever side the wind is not blowing towards, and we still don't have the one put up on this side. It's only been close to 30 years. Relax, we'll get to it. Watching in the mirror, waiting for the signal to pull the truck ahead. Oh, there it is. And stop. Okay, well, we got Phil loaded and dryer's good. Before I take off and do the next thing here, I wanted to take a minute and talk to you guys about test weight. I've been putting this one off for a rainy day when I didn't have a whole lot else going on. Well, that day has finally come. So, test weight. First of all, what is it? I'm going to get sidetracked in this, so I'm going to attempt to follow my train of thought as best I can, but I will get sidetracked. Anyway, what is test weight? So test weight is a measure of grain quality. So we measure corn in bushels. Now, a bushel, in historical sense, and it is a measure of volume, right? So you may have heard of a bushel basket or like a bushel of apples or something. That is a measure of volume. And I could look up and tell you exactly how many gallons are in a bushel. but I don't know off the top of my head. So here's the problem. Volume is very difficult to measure when we're selling semi-loads of grain. And because the quality of that grain can vary, you're not always getting the same amount of corn in a bushel, volumetric bushel. So when we as farmers talk about bushels of corn, soybeans, wheat, whatever, we are talking about a weight. And corn, a bushel of corn is 56 pounds. Doesn't matter how much space that 56 pounds takes up. We're not talking about volume anymore. We're talking about mass, weight. So 56 pounds of corn equals 1 bushel. Now, corn has what we call a test weight, and the test weight is a measure of how much a bushel of corn weighs, right? Confusing, isn't it? So it's using the old definition of a bushel, a volume, and how much that volume of corn would then weigh. So I have 2 samples here. These are from my plot yesterday, and they're both corn. Not much difference between them. Corn, right? This one here has a test weight of 57 pounds. So what that means is that in a 1 bushel container, it's going to weigh 57 pounds. It actually means there's a little bit more than a bushel of corn in that container, because 56 pounds is technically a bushel when we're talking about grain. This one has a test weight of 53.5 pounds per bushel. So that same volume of corn weighs 3.5 pounds less. Okay? Different measures of quality. Now, here's where this gets confusing. And if you don't farm, maybe it's not confusing at all, but it seems to be a huge debate in the ag world and farming world of does test weight matter? Is it important? Does higher test weight corn equal more bushels per acre and higher yield? And on the surface, you would say yes. If your corn is heavier, it means you have more weight, you have more bushels, right? But that's not true. And let me show you my plot results of these 2 hybrids that I am talking about from yesterday. So here's my plot results. We are going to focus on right here, 00H12, okay? That is the one that had the 57 pound test weight. Look at the yield, 165.4, okay? 57 pounds, 165.4. Now let's go down just a couple of lines to 02K39. Look at the yield, 191.6, but the test weight, 53.5. Well, how can that be? What it means is that the kernels of the lighter test weight stuff were probably bigger sized and therefore not quite as dense, but there was more of them and they weighed more per kernel. So we got more total pounds off of that strip and that variety, but it wasn't quite as good of quality. Does that make sense? So I will take 53 pound test weight corn that yields, what's the difference there? 30 bushel, 25 bushel better every single time over something with 57 pound test weight. We get paid based on how many bushels we sell, bushels being a measure of weight in this case. We get paid on weight, pounds, divided by 56 times whatever the price of corn is. And so while I want good quality corn, I want high test weight, I do not want it at the cost of yield. I do not want to give up bushels, total bushels, just to get higher test weight. I'll take this one every single time. There is a slight exception to this that I'm sure you're going to point out if I don't, so I will. We also are selling number 2 yellow corn in this country. Almost all the corn grown in the Midwest is number 2 yellow dent corn. And that comes with certain grade characteristics, certain quality characteristics. For example, it has to be 15.5% moisture, which is why we dry it down. If we sell corn that is wetter than that, they will dock us, they'll shrink the bushels, and they will charge us to dry it to 15 or 15.5%. Well, another one of those quality indicators is test weight. Now, it doesn't have to be 56 pound test weight because that's number 1 corn. Number 2 corn has to be a minimum of 54 pound test weight. So if we sell corn that is 53.5 pound test weight, the elevator probably is going to dock us a certain amount. It may only be a penny or 2 per bushel, but something. So at some point that test weight does become important. occasionally we'll have a variety or a year, it's more likely in environmental conditions, that will cause us to have extremely poor quality corn like we did last year. And we had a lot of 52 to 54 or maybe even 50 pound test weight corn. Well, when you start getting down in that 50 to 52 range, now all of a sudden the docks become 10, 15, 20 cents a bushel, and you can afford to give up a little bit of yield in order to have better quality corn. So it's a balancing act there. We try and pick hybrids that have both good yield and good test weight. But when faced with the choice of, this one has really good grain quality, but this one's always going to yield 10, 20 bushel better, I'm going to take the yield one every single time. Test weight and yield are not correlated, and I hope you saw that in my plot. Just because something has good test weight does not mean that it is the best yielding corn out there. You need to look for yield in terms of bushels per acre, weight per acre, before you worry about the quality and the test weight. Another thing that test weight does affect, and is a benefit and why you want to have good quality, is how much corn fits in a given space, right? So the heavier the corn is, the denser it is, the more weight you get in a given volume, okay? So let's assume we've got this grain bin out here, and we always say that this grain bin holds 45,000 bushels of corn. Now, let's say that that's 45,000 bushels of corn that has a test weight of 56 pounds. If we fill it with corn that has a test weight of 58 pounds, I could do the math on this, but you will get more than 45,000 bushels in that bin. Likewise, if we fill it with 52 pound test weight corn, we're not going to get 45,000 bushels in. That corn takes up more space. We don't get as much weight into that given volume. Same thing with trucks and other stuff. So when we were hauling corn down to Berkey, that first field that we did that was super dry and we hauled it straight into town, that corn had really exceptional test weight. Well, we didn't know that when we started shelling it and then did them first couple of loads. So we filled the trucks up like we normally do. It had 58 pound test weight. We got to the elevator and all of a sudden, we're overloaded, and we didn't know that it was that heavy. So then you adjust from then on, and we didn't fill the trucks near as full. We could have gotten more corn into them, but it would have been way over the legal weight limits. So you got to kind of manage for those things and watch what you're doing on higher loading trucks and doing that kind of stuff. That grain cart scale does help a lot. We didn't fill the first trucks quite as full as we normally would because the scale said how much weight we had put on them. But that only tells me how many pounds of corn are on it, not what the tear weight of the truck is empty. So anyway, hope that helps. If you have any questions or comments, or if I missed something, left something out, hit me up in the comments down below. I will try and explain it further if I need to. But I hope that helps. All right, so our dryer's running good. Phil just took another load out of the overhead, which means we got plenty of room in that bin to dry to, so I don't need to worry about that. So I'm done with my truck. I'm gonna go and do a little bit of mowing of some corn stalks. We gotta mow down some of those corn stalks where my house is gonna go. We're not gonna do any tillage work there because I don't want the loose dirt and the mud for when we're working there in the spring. But I want to get rid of the residue as best we can. So I'm gonna go see what we can do with the John Deere mower. Mowing stalks. All right, that was easy. Back to the farm. Well, I'm waiting for this dryer to run out of corn and our wet bin to run empty. It's got to be close. It's been 45 minutes since that light went out, and it does go down past that light a fair ways, but there can't be too much left in there. So it's about 5:30. As soon as that's done, I'm going to go home. We probably could shell corn right now, but we ain't going to get much done tonight, and they're calling for more rain tomorrow and Friday, so I think we're going to have to wait it out. If it's not raining tomorrow, we'll go, but I don't know. We'll see. So while I'm waiting, I'll take some pictures of this car so I can sell it for my dad. Seriously, anybody wants an '07 Cobalt, let me know. It's not in too bad a shape, and like I said, low miles, like 93,000, I believe. Oh, 96. I was wrong. Okay, guys, dryer ran out of wet corn, so I'm going home. Yeah, we'll see what tomorrow brings. If we're not in the fields and I don't have much going on, I may not put out a video, but I felt with my test weight discussion today and the other stuff we had going on, it was still worth it today. So, but we'll see. Hopefully we'll be back shelling corn tomorrow and I won't have to worry about it. We'll just do it. But anyway, like I said, questions, comments, leave them down below. Hit that like and subscribe buttons for me, please. Hit that like button and the subscribe button. That gets me more people and more views on YouTube, which is the goal, and to get up to 15,000 subscribers by the end of harvest. We're getting there. You guys better hurry up. So anyway, have a great night. We'll see you guys when we see you. Maybe tomorrow.